So an interesting development occurred in our garden. Let's do a haul. Love the way it's looking right now. Hey guys, welcome back to a new gardening vlog. Exciting things are happening in the garden. Before we jump into the big things, I thought it'd be nice to do a little quick tour of how all the plants are looking in Midsummer. I have been hit very hard by the slugpocalypse of 2024. It is insane. Many of the plants, the new plants that I bought and planted, were just completely eaten by slugs. Even some of the perennials haven't come back because the new plants are just eaten straight away. The garden is a lot more bare than it should have been. They somehow seem to prefer the flowers actually. On some plants I had only leaves but no flowers. It was a pretty sad situation. At one point I had planted these beautiful petunias in the front yard. They lasted 2 whole days before they were completely gone. It's very sad. It's a waste of money and time and effort and plants. But still, some things are blooming, some things are looking good. Most of the blooms are on their way out at this point at the season. It's kind of like this in-between period where things are finishing blooming but new things haven't yet started to bloom. But let's take a look around and see how things are looking right now. The sedum that I planted on this terrace is doing fantastic, as are my blueberries. Oh my gosh guys, look at this yield. They taste amazing. This little plant that I recently planted, doing great as well. My David Alston roses are absolute stars in my garden. Want to get more of those eventually. My grandmother's little rose that I brought back last year as just one little twig is looking incredible. And guys, we actually have pears this year. Yes, multiple pears, and they're all still here, grown bigger than just 1 centimeter. My potted plants, varying degrees of success, and the hibiscus that we planted has started to bloom, and it's pink. It was going to be either pink or blue. It's pink, and here's one of the culprits at work. I planted these geraniums in an arrangement with some trailing plants spilling off the sides. The trailing spilling plants have completely been eaten, but the geranium's still going strong. Strawberries looking fantastic as well. Great yield from those. One of our espalier trees unfortunately didn't make it through our very wet spring. Yeah, first 2 years always a bit of a risk. Unfortunately that one didn't make it. Butterfly bush looking glorious as well in the back there. My phlox has come up, as has the sage in front of it. Fairly sure that's sage. And this is the only flower that returned from my wildflower mixture that I sowed last year. So an interesting development occurred in our garden. So on one side of our garden we have a hedge of ivy, and then on the other side we have these evergreens. They're not actually our evergreens, they are neighbors' evergreens that are growing through our fence, and we've let it happen since we moved in here. We just let it go so that it looks like we have a hedge on that side as well, because we very much prefer the look of those evergreens over the fence that was in there, kind of like this weird red color. Not our favorite. It was always the plan to at some point replace the fence, do something about that one, and for sure replace the fence that's running along the back. And you may remember how I painted that fence with my friend. It was bright white when we moved in here. I wanted to paint it a more subdued color, so we made it dark brown, and we've lived with that painted fence for a while now, and it was always the plan to eventually replace that fence with a wooden one. Things were kind of sped along as our neighbor let us know that she was planning to remove her evergreens to create more space in her garden, because they had gotten very wide, and it's the type of tree that you can't really prune it back or cut it back anymore because it won't flush out on like the inner parts of the branches. We ended up buying a new fence together, and since we were having someone over to do that, to remove her evergreens and put down the new fence, we asked them to replace the back of our fence at the same time as well, so that we could get a uniform look, just the same fencing all around. So that is our current situation. The evergreens have been removed. There is a new fence in place. We didn't know what the situation was with this fence before we moved in here, and apparently there was quite a few, there were like 3 separate fences in there for some reason. So we had everything removed and just one put back, which does give us a bunch more garden space. Like, it's not a lot, but it's substantial enough that it's gonna make a big difference. So there's a lot of extra space in our border right now for planting. We also had the fence put in with these wire racks in between the wooden panels, so that there was some kind of, you know, like a higher type of green still present, because we do really prefer the look of green hedgings over a wooden fence. And we felt like this would be a nice compromise between a hedge and a fence. And then along the back fence, we discussed with the gardener that we would really like to somehow block the view from the neighbors across the little water that we have there. And he actually suggested doing this extra beam above the fence that we could then use to grow something across trailing plants. So we're probably gonna do wisteria on it. And I have been warned against wisteria many times by many people. I think I'm gonna be stubborn and do it anyway, just because I absolutely love the look, and it's a really nice and fluffy plant that's gonna grow really big and block out a lot of that view. So another thing that happened is I showed you that tree that the leaves were all brown, so the gardener checked and indeed the tree was dead, so that one didn't make it, unfortunately. So he offered to remove it for us, which was really nice of him. So that tree is gone. Much sooner than I expected, but it was much less hassle for us, so that's fantastic. So when autumn comes around, we're gonna get a new one, like in early winter. When the trees are dormant, we're gonna buy another little espalier tree. I think we're just gonna go for the same one so that they're, you know, the same, the two of them, because the other one did survive and is looking really good. There is finally a place for me to plant that lilac that I bought when I was still pregnant months ago. Which desperately needs to get into the ground. So I'm actually really glad that I didn't plant it. A lilac is a really nice tall plant, so that's going to be perfect to put in the back of the border. And then of course I'm going to have to go out and buy more plants to fill up that space. I would love to get some evergreens in there just to get the same look, but I need to make sure they don't grow too big. Today I'm just going to do a little bit of cleanup. I can now finally get behind the plants, so I can do some weeding there, see if anything was damaged in the placing of the fence, maybe do a little bit of pruning there if anything has been damaged. I'm gonna try and plant the lilac today. We'll see how far I get. Let's get out into the garden. I was able to do a lot of weeding around the vegetable patch. Vegetable patch. This is a sorry excuse for a vegetable patch. Although my berries look nice. Raspberry is doing fantastic. Anyways, this is where I used to have a huge bunch of beautiful daisies, but they just didn't come back this year for the first time. What I did have here is a huge patch of lady's mantle. Spreads like crazy. I started with this one little patch here, which this is now huge and I need to cut this back. All of this was all covered in lady's mantle, so I'm slowly getting rid of that. There's more over here as well. It just, yeah, this spreads like crazy in my garden. Lady's mantle. If I just let it go, I think everything will be taken over by lady's mantle. I also used to have some perennial flowers back there that never came back, which is a shame because those were some of my favorites, but yeah, I can plant something else there now. I think I need to do a little bit of pruning on this California lilac. Yeah, that's what it's called. California lilac. This is a little bit out of control and growing very asymmetrically, so I need to stake that and or prune it. Deadheading on those pincushions that are very slug attractive and not doing the greatest. Also need to cut back this nepeto a bit, and of course, yeah, this whole patch of lady's mantle. Oh, I also finally got rid of my broken pots of mint, which I'm definitely gonna plant more because I loved having that, but it was looking very crummy and yeah, in general, so got rid of that. Also got rid of the thyme and the lemon balm that I had in here, and I'm just gonna buy some new ones. Uncovered a bunch of slugs in the process, trigger warning, but ugh. Let's keep going. A little fruit break before we continue. lilac is in, right over there, and it's gonna grow nice and big, so hopefully it's gonna cover a nice big portion of this. Shrub that I have right next to it, also gonna grow quite big, so I'm a little bit worried that these might start competing with each other, but I would love to have the lilac as more of a tree form eventually, in like many years down the line. And I would like to keep this a little bit smaller just by pruning it a lot. So hopefully those will kind of balance each other out. And I also hope that they don't bloom at the same time because they both bloom white, but I'm fairly sure they don't. So that should be okay. My strawberries, which used to be on the fence, are now on the floor, and we can't have that. Obviously our fence used to have these horizontal slats, and now it's vertical. So I can't really just hang these up the way they used to be. So we need to find a solution for that, but for now I think I'm just gonna hang them from the top so that they're off the floor and away from the slugs. So let's do that first. And also, when that's done, I did manage to dig up 3 of those iris tubers. These are irises that I got from my grandmother, and they were kind of hidden back there because I planted those as one of the first things I planted in this garden, and then I just kind of kept planting taller things in front of them, which is not good. And now I found them all trampled in the back, so I thought I would dig those up and move them forward a bit. So I think I'm actually going to put them right there in front of the California lilac and behind the pear tree. I think that will be a great place, and also hide how bare that California lilac is on the bottom. It was completely flopped over, and now it is all bare on the bottom and only has leaves on top. So I think some irises right there would be nice. Yeah, I don't like how this looks, but at least they are off the floor until we figure out a better solution. It's a new day, it's a beautiful day, and I have some time to spend out in the garden today. So there are a few projects I would like to try and get done today. I haven't yet managed to go out and buy plants yet to fill up that extra space that we have. Might get to that later today, if I have the time. What I would like to do, in any case, is build our second bench. We've had a box just sitting there since I was pregnant. Just never got to it, and I would really like to build a second one of these benches. So I got this one and that little table as a set earlier this season, and that is our old bench that we had. Sorry, there's a lot of construction going on around me, but I would like to replace that one with that one as well and move that one to the front garden. So we can sit out there as well. So I think that would be a nice project to start with before it gets too hot out here. And then another thing I would like to do today, perhaps if I can find the time again, is to mow the grass and use the grass clippings as mulch. Because for some reason, this only dawned to me like yesterday, I have been throwing away the grass clippings and buying mulch, which makes no sense at all. I need to rectify that. Just as I was finishing that bench, our guy came by to finish some last things about our gate. So I decided to take that time to head to the garden center and buy some plants. Let's do a haul. I bought an evergreen. I really did love the look of those evergreens, and I feel like this garden needs some vertical interest as well as evergreen winter interest. So this is just a small one. It should stay fairly skinny. It's a slow growing plant, so if I maintain this then it should be fine even in a small garden like this. Then I got some really cute curly ivy. It's the Iva lace variety, which is gonna go on that central trellis there. I got a clematis, let's see, beautiful blue blooming clematis, which I'm hoping to grow along that trellis. I hope it's sunny enough. It might be too shaded for that, but we'll see. And then I got some new herbs because the old ones all died, and now I have that empty pot sitting there and those other two, so I'd like to fill those back up with herbs because I can't live without my mint and my lemon balm. Gotta make tea somehow. Herbs looking good. Now I need to get these big guys in the ground because I don't really want to have those sitting out in the heat like this. It's in the ground. I think it looks fantastic. I'm very, very happy with it there. I think it's gonna give exactly what this space needs. I didn't get to the ivy, but I am so hot and so tired at this point. I think I'm just gonna clean up, get that into the ground another day. I do definitely still need to do the watering today. Oh, the clematis as well. Almost forgot about that. I definitely do need to do some watering today, but I'm gonna wait until the sun goes down a little bit to do that, because at this point it'll just evaporate. So I will be back to do a final little walkthrough. But for now, signing off. Let's plant some ivy. Alrighty guys, the ivy is planted, the clematis is planted, and I'm afraid that's all the time I have for gardening this week, but I am very, very happy with the progress I've made. Love the way it's looking right now. The only thing I didn't manage to do is cutting the grass. That's always at the bottom of the priority list, but it's looking really good. So let's end this video with a few scenes from the garden, a few highlights from the garden in early August.